Welcome to the Joyful Caregiving Summit. I'm your host, Julie Shea, and today we are joined by Phyllis Shelton. We're going to be covering long-term care and how to protect your assets. She is the president of Got LTCI and one of the leading voices in long-term care insurance. For over 30 years, she's been a dedicated consumer advocate, helping families protect their assets, reduce stress, and make confident care decisions. Welcome, Phyllis.
Happy to be here, Julie.
So happy you are here. Our audience, gosh, there's so much in caregiving. And, it's not just caring for the parent, but we have to care for ourselves as well. So,
Mhm.
why is it important for caregivers to even think about long-term care?
The insurance is the way to pay for the care, which reduces the stress on the family. I actually am approaching almost 40 years in this field,
Hmm.
and I can take you back to October 1988, when I first started. And it's so different because then I talked to people, and I bet one out of two said, "Oh, we don't need insurance. Our kids will take care of us." Guess
Yeah.
who I talked to today?
Yeah.
The adult children who are in their 50s, 60s, and now they're shocked to find out that nothing else pays for this. The pitfalls of Medicaid are so many. And the kids are saying, okay, what can we do about our parents? And I'm like, stop. Do you really want your children or nieces, nephews, if you don't have children, to be going through what you're going through right now? Is that what you want for them? A wake up call.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was privileged enough that my folks did buy long-term care and so grateful for that, most definitely. And yeah, it's so helpful. I mean, you end up losing assets. I mean, what they've worked so hard for, you end up having to sell homes or whatever it is. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so important. Um,
One of the most difficult things that we deal with right now, Julie, and I have 6 women around the country. They're amazing specialists. They help families, and we just deal with almost every day some financial advice telling a family they can self-insure.
mm,
And it's not so much about the money because it. Oh my goodness, just a week of home care 8 hours a day could cost more than being in a nursing home today, and people don't realize that.
yeah.
And, depending on where you live in the country, that or assisted living, a nice place, you're looking at in 15 years, you could easily be looking at 20,000 bucks. Now think
Yeah.
about that. That's a lot of money. And then there are wealthy families who expect 24/7 caregiving. And in, 20 years, 25 years, 3 or 4 years of that could be $3 million. So this can be a huge amount. But let's just go with the middle American family that
Yeah.
that doesn't have those millions of dollars. The fact that the kids have a place to go because they want to help their family, they want to help the parents, they want to honor them, they want to do all that. But to have a place to go to get that money because their parents love them enough to set up an insurance policy that would take care of it versus, oh my gosh, the market's down. What are we going to sell? Oh, the housing market's down. How are we going to sell the house now? We're going to take a big
Yeah.
loss. Do we have to take a loan? My college roommate, whom I love so dearly, she wound up taking care of her parents. They were offered long-term care insurance through the phone company at the time. Didn't take it, said they could self-insure. Mother wound up in a nursing home with Alzheimer's. Dad, my roommate, had to keep care of at home until he was like 94, had to do everything for him, and only child. Well, she was afraid to spend their money. She was afraid that they would run out. So
Mm,
she did it all herself. And what has that done? She had 3 boys, she had a husband. I mean, what has that done to her life? She has been a caregiver all these years.
Yeah. 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 For my situation, uh, it's kind of a funny story. My mom said, I don't want Julie taking care of me.
Yeah, smart mom.
More like, because she thought I would tell her what to do.
Mhm.
It's just really funny because then later, well, here's another little story, and it kind of goes into the next question is when when do you kick it in? So I had told my mother, think of it as, you're really wealthy. And the person's going to come in and they're going to cook for you and they're going to clean. And that was the only way I could get my mom to even kick it in. So
Mhm.
what do you suggest for the people that, it's like they have it and then, when how do you get your parent or loved one to kick it in when they're adamant about no?
I had a situation just like that. One of the early families that I sold, the man, the way I got these people, I did seminars, educational seminars all over my town at the time. And I didn't know any better, so I did one for the local Society of Engineers. Wow. I met with this man once a month for 6 months until he bought policies on himself and his wife. And he did not want his two children, brother and sister, he just didn't want to be a burden on them ever. And ironically, not long after he bought it, his wife did have a stroke at 65 years old and needed care for 15 years. And this policy just saved that family. But later on, he got dementia and he was refusing. First off, he didn't tell his kids about the insurance. The son had to find it in a drawer and he got mad because his dad hadn't told him. And they were able to use it on the mom. But then when the dad got dementia and he was, no, I don't want anybody, no strangers in the house, and we're not doing it. I said to that son, I said, listen, you need to listen to the dad who met with me once a month for 6 months, 25 years ago. That's the father I want you to listen to because he was so adamant. He never wanted to be a burden on you and your sister.
Mhm.
And that's the one you need to hear. And so he did and brought in caregivers, and it made all the difference in the world. So
Wow.
to me, it's yes, it's about money, but it's protecting the entire family. Having money to pay for something makes all the difference in the world. The stress is horrible enough. But if you don't have money to pay for caregivers, that's when it gets stressful.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's so difficult. Um I know that also the other side of it is if you are still caregiving and it's like part-time, they only need to come in so many days a week, um it saves the caregiver
Mm-hmm.
their sanity. So,
Oh,
you can go exercise or go see your friends or,
go
whatever.
to a movie.
Yeah. Go to a
Have a
movie.
life. Have a life.
Yeah.
And
So,
when I hear the husband say, "Oh, my wife will take care of me," I say, "Does she ever sleep?" Okay. When's the last time she picked you up? Reality check. But at this point, I think let's go over what it takes to get a claim paid, Julie,
okay. Yeah.
because it's the same. It's federally regulated since 1997, and people have to meet one of these two criteria. So it's physical or mental. Physical is you are expected to need help with at least two of the six daily living activities. So let's go over those: dressing and bathing. And that's what most people lose first. Transferring is just moving from point A to point B. Toileting, continence, and eating. And eating is just getting food from the plate into your mouth. It's not cooking, it's not preparing food, right? But here's the kicker: you're expected to need help with at least two of those for at least 90 days. So this is not a broken hip or a knee replacement, right? Now, you could be in an accident. Anybody can be in an accident uh, and need help for 6, 7, 8 months and recover, right? That's still a long-term care insurance claim, right? That's
Oh,
the physical one. The mental we all think of is Alzheimer's when we're 85, but it could be It could be an accident. One of my clients was in a pretty bad car wreck, concussion, caused all kinds of memory problems. She was 57 years old.
Mm.
So it could be anything like that, but it's a severe cognitive impairment to the point where you cannot stay by yourself safely. So you meet one of those, and in a situation right now, this woman thinks all her doctor has to do is say that's true. Well, the doctor does have to say it's true, but the insurance company is going to also send a nurse to do an assessment, because how many doctors would say that just to please their patients?
Mm.
So it has to be corroborated. And then the medical people lay out a 12-month plan of care. Is it safe for Julie to stay home, or is she climbing out the windows and trying to escape? So,
I didn't know that. I've heard stories like that. So
well, yeah.
yeah.
So it's but you do have to go, and you have to understand the insurance company's side of it, because they can't just have whatever doctor says to that, because it's really got to be true.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that. The assessment.
Mhm.
And they're usually it's an outside company, isn't it? That usually comes in to
Yeah,
do the assessment.
usually,
Yeah.
and so many of the companies do have wonderful care coordinators. You know, they're also nurses internally, and then a nurse will come to the home and do an assessment, and they don't just check a box. They watch you. Like, do you really have trouble getting dressed? Do you really have trouble going to the bathroom? You know,
Mm.
do you really have trouble taking a bath? And they have to document that for the insurance company. Now, one of the carriers, in fact, I saw it yesterday, John Hancock, they have gone to a virtual assessment where you still have a family member or somebody nearby helping you with the computer and all that. But, you know, they're going to have you walk where they can see you, and, you know, do various things so that they can legitimately say you are deficient in those activities of daily.
Interesting. Boy, our world is going virtual. Whoa. And here we are.
Mhm. And here we are.
Yeah. So my mom had COPD.
Mm.
So, mentally she was all there, wanting to do everything, but, on oxygen 24/7 with the long cord connected to the oxygen and,
Yep.
trying to, just walk from, the living room to the kitchen,
Mhm.
it was just too much.
I have
And
a client like that now, interstitial
yeah,
lung disease. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
That's why
really,
she can't do these things. Her mind is fine.
yeah, exactly. So, and that's why it was hard for me to get her to kick it in,
Mm.
and that's why I had to use that think, mom, you want to be wealthy all your life, and she definitely thanked me, later, and it was a godsend because she could enjoy the little bits and pieces of her life, instead of trying to cook dinner
Mhm. Mhm.
or do the laundry or, all that. So, yeah, it really is amazing. And until you experience it, you don't really, yeah. So just remember, we have to remember for our kids or nieces and nephews or whoever that, we we don't want to burn them out.
Right. Because once that caregiver is burned out, like in this lady's case, her husband, he is just, at wit's end. He just needs help so desperately. Because once that caregiver is burned out, where are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, my mother was an early cancer victim. She was 54 when she was diagnosed, and she needed care 2 years, and she did pass away. And
Wow.
fought us tooth and nail, the caregivers. My father and I were both working, fought us tooth and nail. But once those ladies got in there and they were cooking and they were, talking with her, and oh my goodness, they became her best friends. And
Mm-hmm.
she just adored them, and they did her. And it was just the most wonderful thing. If that had not happened, I would not be talking with you today.
Mm.
I could not have quit a job and been a caregiver. And the other thing people don't think about, and I've got another family in this situation, what if your relationship with that parent is not all that wonderful? Talked to a lady yesterday. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult when that is the situation.
Yeah.
And having a caregiver as a buffer so that the daughter can still be the daughter and not the caregiver. In fact, you probably followed Bruce Willis, Alzheimer's journey, and his wife Emma was quoted couple weeks ago in People magazine. They did move him into a separate home because they still have children and he needed a quiet place and all that. But then they put in caregivers, and she said it made all the difference in the world because now she can be the wife again. The children can be the children, and they have their rightful place in the family, not the caregiver that usually gets the worst side of that person. Possible.
Yeah. 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 Such a great point. Absolutely. Yeah. We could go on for
I
hours.
know. Let's look at some more questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, what are the biggest misunderstandings people have about long-term care insurance?
Oh, I could nail that one, Julie. It's the same today as it was 38 years ago. People think it's nursing home insurance, and they do this. Well, I have to tell you, I just went through the criteria, right, to get a claim paid. Less than 15% of the people that meet those are in a nursing home. Isn't that right?
Mm,
Most care starts out at home. Half of it doesn't transition out. If it does, people usually go to an assisted living facility, not a nursing home. 80% of those do not transition out. So the nursing homes, and I've had two family members, but people who are paralyzed, they're bedbound, they're not mobile, or it could be if it's cognitive. Glenn Campbell's a great example. He, with his dementia, went into more of a combative, very active mode, and could not be kept at home, even with several caregivers. He had to
mm,
be in a safe environment. So, of course, he wound up in the nicest nursing home in Nashville, Tennessee, whatever money could buy. But it was for his safety,
yeah.
right? It was for his safety. So, but the nice thing is, now when I started, no assisted living facilities. You were at home or in a nursing home. So now these places, I don't know if you've looked at them, Julie, but some of them look like country clubs, and you can
Yeah.
have your privacy, you can mingle, but there's somebody there 24/7 to help you if you need help. Versus especially for single people. If they're living alone, you can get depressed if you don't feel well. And if
Yeah.
you become a fall risk, I mean, you could lay there for hours if your phone is in the other room or, whatever.
Yeah.
So assisted living has just changed the whole landscape of long-term care.
Yeah, it definitely has. I actually, in my career, I worked for a retirement community that also had assisted living and memory care.
Mm,
And, it was because I come from the advertising world in radio and television. And then I had 2 years at this beautiful, it was like a resort, you know, it was
yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah.
And, it's one of those jobs, it was the easiest sales job I ever had. Um, but it was also, how did I get here? And now,
Mhm.
fast forward, my dad, he's actually my stepdad, but I call him my dad, or I call him Rich. Or
Yeah.
anyway, he now has dementia.
Mm.
And there's so much around dementia that you don't know. And I got educated in that by, having those couple of years. And I learned so much about, getting over the, what is it called? The misconceptions about the retirement communities or the assisted living communities. So, don't feel like, oh, I can't put my parent in there, or the parent may think, I don't want to go into a place like that because they're thinking, from television, from, their era of what it looks like. And it's not necessarily like that anymore. So,
There's a benefit on these policies called respite care. And like if the family needs to go on vacation for a week or something like that, you can put the loved one in a very nice assisted living facility, a temporary basis, right? And that has been a way that some families have gradually eased that person so they say, hey, this is kind of a fun place, it's not so much a prison, it's really nice.
Mhm.
And I don't have to clean and I don't have to mow my yard. And, I have couples that want to be in assisted living. And the good news about it is the second person can be there and not for a lot of money. So it's a great, great solution.
Yeah, yeah. And long-term care covers that.
It does. Long-term care insurance covers uh, home care, adult daycare, assisted living facilities, and nursing homes. Now, back on the home care, many policies are what we call reimbursement, where you have eligible charges, they pay for it, just like health insurance. And
Mhm.
it's going to be subject to a daily or monthly benefit. And anything that's less than that daily or monthly maximum stays in your bucket and makes it last longer. So you might buy a bucket of dollars of 5 years. That's the minimum amount of time it would last. Because if you start having home care 3 or 4 days a week, you're not having it every day, you could easily make that extend 6 or 7 or 8 years.
Mhm.
And on those policies, you generally do have to use a licensed caregiver. Like in Tennessee, we call them a CNA, a certified nurse assistant, home health aide, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some policies require you to go through a home care agency. I'll put in a plug for Amada. They do a great job. They're all over the country and they file the claims for people.
Mm.
There are policies, Julie, where you can get a cash or a partial cash benefit. And if you're getting cash, you're not filing a claim every month. You can use that money to pay whomever you want and potentially pay the person less than if they go through an agency, because the agency has to cover their OP.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Now, there's a caveat there. You probably remember the term nanny gate. Do you remember that?
Mhm. Mhm.
If you are hiring people and controlling their time, and some people do this, you can use that money to move somebody in with you. I mean, it's fabulous. But you are supposed to contribute half to their Social Security and their unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
But there are bookkeeping agencies that will do that for you. So as these needs arise, private industry will fill the need. But that is the most flexible kind of policy today, is to have a cash or at least partial cash flow.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, people are surprised. There's a lot more options today with long-term care insurance than there have been in many years. And it's interesting because half of the market is the traditional plans. You pay, and if you never need care, let's be glad you didn't have a brain tumor or a stroke. I mean, really? How many people sit around and worry their house hadn't burned down and they're not getting their money's worth out of their homeowner's policy? Or
Mhm.
I always say, if you're worried about your car insurance, let me back into you. Will that make you feel better to have a claim? No. So it'd be wonderful. You never need it. But there are some people that say, oh my gosh, if I never need it, I want that money to go somewhere. All right, fine. Half of the sales today are hybrid plans. They're either hooked to life insurance for healthier people or annuities for not as healthy. And that way there is a death benefit if care is never needed that goes to their family. And the
Yeah.
premiums are guaranteed on those, so people don't have to worry about rate increases. They're not single premiums anymore. They can be paid over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So there are so many, and that's where you find the 100% cash plans. And some of them even work internationally.
Wow. So, that's why we have experts or great voices to let us know.
Specialists.
Specialists, there we go. That's a good word. Specialists like you that will find the right policies for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, you've also spent decades as a consumer advocate. What drives your passion for educating families about these choices?
Probably, now I had a decade in health insurance with the Blue Cross system, both in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I went to college, and then back in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I knew a lot about health insurance at the time. But when long-term care insurance started happening again around 1988, I guess I was drawn to it because my mother was a nurse, worked nights, took care of my grandfather who was blind, for almost a decade in our home.
Mm.
And he was my favorite person. First off, when I got home from school, and I would take him water and read to him and all of this. But he did still have to spend the last 2 years fighting the nursing home. We became incontinent and whatever. We even moved him once to a better place. But she passed away very young. And I think that all those years of caregiving and working, it's a really hard thing to go through. So maybe that's why I was drawn to it. And
Yeah.
then when she got sick, I know that having the caregivers made it possible for me to continue my career. So I just always had an affinity for it. To me, it's a ministry. And I feel like I'm throwing out lifesavers to people and hopefully not hitting them in the head and drowning them. But but I've written a few books, and I have a little book called The ABCs of Long-Term Care Insurance. It's on my website. But just to educate families so that they can make a good choice. And now's the time. Don't wait. I was 40 when I got my first policy. Don't wait. Anybody can have an accident or develop MS or Parkinson's. Look at Michael J. Fox or things like that. And now's the time to look.
Yeah, that's great points. Great points for sure. Um, for someone feeling overwhelmed, what's the first step for them to start exploring coverage?
Well, I'm very excited to say that I do have 6 amazing women, and I will only have women do this because it is a woman's world when it comes to caregiving. Not that a few men don't do it and do a fabulous job, but most of the caregivers are daughters or wives or granddaughters, right?
Yeah.
So I have 6 women around the country, and all people have to do is go to my website, which is godlpci.com, like got milk, right? That's why I did it. Nobody gets it.
I love it. Yeah.
GOTLTCI.com. And there is a little video of me, if you can stick with my Southern accent for education, 12 minutes. And then there's a place you can do a questionnaire, and you'll get assigned to one of these amazing women. And they are patient, compassionate. You can look at the testimonials on my website, and they will work with families to figure out the best product. Some of it varies by state, what's available and what will fit the budget.
Perfect. That's wonderful service. And, you have a free offer too. Let them know about that.
That is, a lot of people will pay a lot of money to go to a financial advisor or something like that for this. So the free offer is to do that consultation, and you don't have to buy anything. And if you don't, of course, we're sad that we didn't help you, but there is no contract. There's no whatever, we really, and these women are extremely, extremely qualified. So at least you owe it to yourself and your family. And if you're part of a couple, you both should be in on that consultation. We welcome adult children, just anybody to get into it. And I want to say one other thing. Our folks are not just knowledgeable about the insurance. There's a whole world with Medicaid where people will advise you to give your assets away, or put your home and children's name and all of that. And there are wonderful policies today that people can buy. And if the insurance is enough, their assets are protected, Julie, equal to the benefits paid out, no limit. Your policy might pay out $500,000 or $1 million. And if it's not enough and you need to turn to Medicaid, you can protect that amount of money plus what Medicaid lets you keep, which believe me, is hardly anything. So it's really important to go through that. And on my website, there's also a page that shows you about Medicaid spend down. But really, being a private pay patient is a better way to go.
Yeah,
More
definitely.
choices, assisted living covered, more home care, and it's just a better way to go than Medicaid. Plus, if you're reading the news, Medicaid is being cut. So being a private pay patient is always better than being on some type of government program.
Yeah, there's so much to learn about long-term care, protecting our assets, and all I can say is just research. And you've got a great person here to call and just get some advice and protect yourself, protect your assets, protect your kids. Your loved
Protect the entire
ones.
family. In fact, my last book is called Protecting Your Family with Long-Term insurance, and it is on my website with the little ABCs of long-term care insurance. But my heart is in, I call myself a consumer advocate for long-term care insurance, but my heart is educating families because they find out too late that Medicare doesn't pay for it. Medicaid is difficult to get, spending down, all that. And if they would start early enough, then long-term care insurance can be the best thing, the best decision that family ever made.
Yeah, we buy insurance for our car, and, you know, most people don't get in an accident ever.
Mhm.
And so this is, yeah, I mean, it definitely worth every penny.
Yeah, because with insurance, depending on your age and what you buy, you might be able to get as many as 10 benefit dollars for every dollar of premium.
Mm,
And with most of the policies, the premium stops when you have a claim. All right. And then again, if you're self-insuring, when you save money, you have to pay capital gains tax or some type of income tax or something like that. So if you wind up pulling money out of your savings, you can be overpaid because you're pulling out enough to take care of the taxes. See how that goes?
mhm.
Yeah. So it really comes down to, do you really enjoy signing the front of the check or the back of the check?
I love that. That's okay. So true, so true. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Phyllis. So appreciate you sharing your knowledge, your expertise in this field, and, bless you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I hope this has brought some peace of mind to you and your loved ones. And thank you very much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you, Julie. It's my honor and privilege to help.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye for now.